Hi, class. My name is Justin Kuhn. I'm a junior here at Southern Oregon, and I'm going to be talking about cohesion, group cohesion in sports. And I'm a physical education major, and I want to be a wrestling coach. So I thought that this was an awesome topic for me to go over because how applicable it's going to be for my future. So yeah, so starting off. Uh, So group cohesion is defined as the total field of forces which act on members to remain in the group. Yeah, and then so there's different kinds of cohesion, and the first is task cohesion, which reflects the degree to which members of a group work together to achieve common goals, such as winning a championship. Uh, but yeah, task cohesion has the idea of a team uniting for a common goal, and that's what brings them together. And the other kind of cohesion is social cohesion, which reflects the degree to which members of a team like each other and enjoy one another's company. Uh, so this is a different kind of cohesion. It's just a group bonding together because they like each other. And the textbook gave an example of there was a soccer team in a smaller country who their players were not as talented or skilled as some of the bigger uh, teams, the countries that had bigger teams and better players, but because of their ability uh, to come together and work together and be cohesive socially, they did really well. So that's an example of social cohesion compared to task cohesion. Uh, One story I thought was really interesting was the story of Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant, how they did not get along very well. That says the books have stated that they were openly against one another, didn't like each other very well, but they performed extremely well because they were united over a common goal, and that was winning NBA championships. So that's the difference between task cohesion and social cohesion. So what are the effects of group cohesion? Uh, so overall, looking at the different articles, cohesion has been shown to improve team performance. So it's a positive thing. And this is a quote from our textbook. It said that a review of 66 empirical studies assessing the cohesion performance relationship in a variety of settings showed positive relationships in 92% of the studies. So overall, almost always cohesion is a positive thing. Uh, and then another thing I wanted to look at was the conceptual model of cohesion and its factors. So one of those factors was the environmental factor. So just knowing that where things take place, what sport it is, just the different environment all affects a team's ability to be cohesive. And the personal factors, every individual involved, obviously you're bringing a lot of different personalities together. And then the leadership factor, understanding that different coaches coach in different ways, they structure things differently, and that's all going to affect the cohesion. And lastly, the team factor, how the different teams work together. And then this is my first article that I looked at, and this is called Group Cohesion and the Important Factors in Sports Performance. And this article really confirmed that you need to make sure and observe and take care of behaviors that are not positive in the team environment. And we'll kind of dive into this a little bit more when we talked about the practical setting. But this next article called Team Building and Group Cohesion in the Context of Sport and Performance Psychology. This one focused on uh, what was it? Oh yeah, measuring cohesion in sports, research on cohesion in the individual athlete, cohesion in the team environment, and the limitation of cohesion. This one, the one application that it talked about was different intervention settings. And so, lastly, my very last article called "How to Achieve Team Cohesion Through Competition in Sport and Organizational Model." This was one of my favorites. It was a very unique way to bring about cohesion that I hadn't really thought about, and that was through uh, using the way you organize competition to build cohesion. We'll talk about a little bit more, but how do you apply cohesion in a practical setting? So the settings that I'm going to choose to talk about are directly related to the fields that I'm going to go in. So the first one is going to be the classroom, and then I'm going to talk about the sports team. So in the PE classroom, the first way could be to, like the first article talked about, to observe behaviors that are detrimental to a cohesive environment. And uh, what you could do is observe any behaviors, like let's say in the classroom, uh, kids are making fun of each other, or they're being clicky and they're isolating different members of the classroom. You could, as a teacher, see those things and address them and help the students to realize those aren't helpful. And then secondly, in the classroom, we can increase cohesion by doing different intervention models. This is what the second article talked about, which is simply providing maybe a social atmosphere for students to connect. Maybe that means having, if there's real big issues, having a meeting, organizing a meeting so that we can work through those issues that are happening. And then lastly, we could, in the classroom, we could focus on restructuring activities in the classroom so they do not create an overly competitive environment. And so we can do this by restructuring activities so it's not about winning, but about improving as an individual. And then lastly, in addition, teachers need to use language that encourages and unites the classroom. And so how can we uh, promote cohesion as a wrestling coach, or how can I? And so the first thing, like the first article talked about, is I want to observe behaviors that would be detrimental to cohesion. And for instance, like a big one on sports is older athletes bullying freshmen. So if that's taking place as a coach, I need to address that. I need to step up and say something. And then our second article talked about how you can schedule hangouts. That intervention time is how the wordage they use, but just simply means making sure that there's an environment where things can take place, where relationships can be built. And one way that my coach did that is by taking our team bowling every year. It was an excellent way to hang out, and I loved being able to goof off and do something outside of the wrestling room. That was enjoyable. And then lastly, coaches should focus on uh, not creating animosity between players because of over competitiveness. So one way to do this is by restructuring activities. So it's not always one team member against another, but it's structuring things so that it's the team working together to accomplish tasks, or working against themselves, so that they're trying to better themselves based off their previous performance, but not based off of putting them against someone else. So it's either them or someone else. And then lastly, I just want you guys to, here's my references so you guys can see them. Yeah, and so that's it. Thank you guys so much for your time. And that's my presentation. Have a great day.